Most of us eat stuff that we know can't be good for us, like donuts and bacon from time to time. And often we will find ourselves similarly munching on mental donuts too. Very little nutritional benefit, but tasty, irresistible. Of course, I'm talking about Machete, the movie. There is so much to like about Machete, so many wonderful scenes. The movie really paces itself as it traverses one terrific, I would even say spellbinding, scene after another. This is exactly how it came before me, scene by scene. I was with a bunch of people, and one of them asked me in a very offhand, low-key way if I'd seen Machete. I could tell he was talking about a movie, and I said I'd never heard of it, thinking that would put an end to that. I have no interest in movies I've never heard of. And I was tuning into other conversations around me, trying to select one I could dip into, as he, full of persistence, as any lover of Machete would be, began to recount some scenes from the movie, rolling them out, one after another, his evidence that Machete was worth the ride. I did my best to ignore him, but he didn't mind. There is a certain pleasure in simply recalling some of these scenes. And around the time he was telling me about Machete in a pool with a mother and daughter, and both of them topless, and one of them, the daughter, is Lindsay Lohan, I began to focus on what he was saying. What? What's that? Go on, I said. Tell me more. Which he did, effortlessly, until I was locked in. What a fool I'd been. How could I have missed it? I had to see the movie. I did see the movie. And it was exactly and spectacularly as he had pitched it. That and more. You've heard of Over the Top? Machete starts there and carries on. It's like watching the cow jump over the moon. And what a cast. Danny Trejo is perfect as Machete. A woman at that gathering, when I first heard about the movie, objected to him strenuously as a leading man. Impossible, she said. But if you love Machete, the movie, and the character, then you know that Robert Rodriguez, the director and creator of Machete, knew exactly what he wanted and when he found him, and he found him in Danny Trejo. And then you have, my goodness, Robert De Niro, Jessica Alba, Lindsay Lohan, of course, freaking unbelievable Steven Seagal, twice the size of Moby Dick and still slinging it, and freaking unbelievable Don Johnson back from whatever hell he'd been in, and Cheech Marin, who else as a priest, duh, Michelle Rodriguez, Jeff Fahey. The movie is, I think the Latinos say, muy caliente, way too hot, way too much, which only makes you want to say, I'll have more. In order to love Machete, you need to know exactly what kind of movie it is. I've heard it called a B-movie, and I've heard it called an homage to the 42nd Street Grindhouse double features, and I've heard it called a mexploitation flick. All of these are probably accurate, but what I think Machete is after is to be a balls-out fantasy film. It's balls out because it has the mentality of a 13-year-old boy, which is probably why the woman at the party could not relate. That's okay. Like a bunch of habanero peppers and cold Tecate beer, Machete is not going to be for everyone. And it's a fantasy film because the 13-year-old boy is a Mexican, and if you can grant those two premises, then everything falls into place. Machete is a fantasy movie like Harry Potter. Machete is a fantasy movie like Lord of the Rings. Machete is a fantasy movie like James Bond. And Machete is a fantasy like Santa Claus. At the very least, especially, I think, for Robert Rodriguez and Danny Trejo, and me, Machete is a dream come true. You may not be aware of it, but the revolution is coming to you from that taco truck right over there. Machete is fantastic. Thank goodness there will be more. Machete kills, and then how wonderful is this? Machete kills again in outer space. I can't wait. There's sequels. They really will suck, or even worse, semi-suck, as sequels always do. But maybe not. I've heard about the cast for the second one. If anything, it somehow tops the first. I wouldn't have believed that was possible. So maybe the fantasy goes on. Maybe it will work. It really doesn't matter. I love Machete.